last year, because looking at what's available and the progress that's been made and the resources available online, you know, because I haven't been in, I'm seeing a big, huge step. You've probably all seen just small steps, not realizing how much you've moved forward. But my goodness, when just going in and having a look, I'm going, my God, what a huge step you've made, a big journey you've done. So credit to you personally, and credit the Chamber and all the ambassadors who has contributed in the past year. I'm good on you. So I just wish I had more time to probably been part of it.
Thank you so much, Andy. But you've helped loads. Like everyone that is applying for the CIF, we just go to Andy. He knows. So you've been a great help as well. You've been great help. I mean, this project started basically with Alison and Vicky setting the kind of creating the skeleton of the project, and after that we just went with it. We did have a difficult year, I'm not going to lie, because of COVID. We did have a lot of business engagement dropping over the summer months. Let me just see what I wrote here in the report. So we have worked so far with 400 plus businesses. We have approached individually and we have informed them about the project, but we think that it would have been much more, maybe double if it wasn't COVID, because everything kind of froze from our side over the summer months, and now it's slowly picking up. That's another question that I wanted to ask you. How do you think, what would our narrative be at the moment in order to approach businesses and be a bit more successful in engaging with them?
Basil, I suppose that's why we've created the AAA plan, and thanks very much for putting that around. That's kind of, when we were creating at MDG, it was very much with that in mind of how do we start that conversation. So we'd love for the other ambassadors to have a look at it when they get the chance and see what they think of it, because it is kind of, we're hoping it prompts a question and starts a conversation with people who aren't necessarily aware of Zero Waste Scotland or Circular Tayside, and then we can, you know, point them in the right direction and hopefully help them to get involved and within our industry help where we can. But obviously it's about us learning as well. So I think what we're trying to do, at least on our end, is create the opportunity for people to ask. Because I feel like prompting the question is a good way to get the conversation started. I feel like approaching people sometimes, especially this year, they just go, I don't have time to think about that. But if you can pique someone's interest, I find that's a good way to get them to kind of buy in quicker, because their interest is in pique less of, oh, have you had a look at this? You let someone go away, look at something, and then it's up to them to decide, oh, tell me more. I want to know about this specific part, and that opens the door to the rest of it.
Absolutely. No, that's what I got from your AAA plan, Christian, that it literally walks people through the things that they can do. You have involved sustainability, CO2 and circularity in there. And I think it's a great first step. I think that over time you will see that people, you know, are more interested in one aspect or another, and then, you know, you can kind of work on it. But it's a really good document. And I'm quite happy that you really went in there in the MDG group and you motivated your colleagues and you talked to the people that take the decisions. That was brilliant. I'm going to put the link for your AAA plan here in the chat for anyone that wants to take a look.
Brilliant, thanks, Basil. Yeah, we it can definitely be improved still, and that's why any comments we're happy to take them, because we're hoping that there will be more versions of this kind of plan that we've put together that we can implement ourselves and then help our customers implement. But obviously, once you look at it, you'll know it is quite niche to our kind of industry, just because we don't have the knowledge elsewhere. So hopefully throughout the time with Circular Tayside and spending time with the other ambassadors, especially in the new year when we can hopefully meet face to face, touch wood, we'll be able to take things on board better and then hopefully create a wider plan that covers more than just kind of what we already know, and can help us to help our customers and help people who aren't yet involved.
That's great. Thanks, Christian. Anyone else? Comments? What are we doing great? What are we doing wrong? Yes, Jennifer.
Hello, sorry I was late.
No, that's fine.
I have really no critical comments other than big thanks. Being connected to Circular Tayside has been by far like the most rewarding connection to have like made as a startup. So I really appreciate the network and all the resources that have been available through the year, and connecting with others, other ambassadors has been really useful, and just going through some of the workshops. And I think those peer connections have been like so useful on a personal level, but also to help with other things. So I guess going into next year, I think what we really need is the opportunity to make some more connections with other people in the network, because I find that a lot of my communication sometimes to you, Vaso, is directed to you, and I probably could do a better job of reaching out to the people on the website. So I think that'd be quite a nice thing to have.
No, that sounds brilliant. Like maybe like an ecosystem event with all the kind of sustainability related partners that we have in the region, and how they can help businesses that want to be greener.
That'd be super. I mean, just in terms of some of the small steps around product development. So having the opportunity to speak to others in products development around like where they source their packaging from, or where they do their manufacturing from. Just those little things would be really nice to connect with people. So an event, happy to help, volunteer to help in a little way. But yeah, those are just my only thoughts. But a big thank you for all your work.
That sounds brilliant. That's a really good idea. Thanks, Jennifer. I'm sure that we can make that happen next year. Okay, any other comments, anyone? God, we are either doing a really good job or a really bad one. So as for numbers, I told you we've worked with about 400 plus businesses this year. We have held around 200 one-to-one sessions where we either use the circular canvas or the innovation canvas, or we just kind of identified where their waste is. And then we are heavily, well, I really like working in partnership with Scottish Enterprise and with Business Gateway, because they have tools that they can use that we don't really use at the moment. Do you have any other partners in mind that we might be able to benefit from? For example, one thing that a lot of businesses ask for is carbon calculations or circularity calculations. Do you have any partners or tools in mind that you prefer, or do you think that this would be a good offering from Circular Tayside for the next year to local businesses?
Yeah, can I just jump in on that? I think that would be, certainly from our side, at Due Products here, having that kind of second validation on claims that we may or may not make about the carbon reductions as part of our product offerings would be quite useful, even if it's just a process of being able to, I know, validate figures that have already been validated. Because I think the problem we have with carbon calculations is quite often they're based on quite vague. It can all be very vague, I think, and I think sometimes people are quite suspicious of calculations. But you know, you make them with as best you can, really. A lot of our calculations are done by weight and plastic weights, etc. And Carbon Trust has been quite helpful with us in these calculations. But I certainly think having a third-party portal where you could have your figures reconfirmed would be very useful, and not just for us. I know that a project we're working on with Dundee City Council right now, they've got the same issues. You know, they think they know what the figures are, but everyone's a wee bit nervous about saying them until they've been absolutely validated. So I think
it's quite difficult to validate them as well. As you know, Eric, it really depends on what system boundaries you set for the carbon calculations, where you stop calculating, and that really defines how much carbon is going to be associated with your operations. I think of it comes from that. But yeah, I do get what you mean by having an external party validation, so we can look at how we can help with that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Niall, carry on.
No, I was just going to say, Vaso, the next step for the Climate Action Plan, as you know, is to use the Climate View software to start calculating the carbon abatement of the actions that we've got in there. So we're going to have to work closely with yourselves and our waste team and everyone else to work out how we're going to do that. It's a really useful, simple tool. It might not be 100% accurate, but it will help to show us that we're on the right path. So understanding in terms of kind of waste avoided and what the carbon savings are of different projects is going to be really critical to that. So, you know, any way we can work with you on that outside of that climate view tool, I'd be really interested. I mean, everyone, I think, realises recently how important data is. You know, if we're heading to net zero, we're not going to have a clue where we are on that path unless we gather lots of data and really understand what we're doing. So in all sorts of different areas, this is becoming key. And I've spent the last few months trying to find data on things like our traffic and all sorts of things. And it's amazing, there's all this data hidden away that you don't know about, and we're starting to pull it all together. So we're just finalising the transport side, energy's next, and then waste is what we'll look to. So we'll definitely work closer with you on that.
Yeah, can I just ask a question, Naomi? That's really interesting. Yep. Do you work with, and hi by the way, it's been a while since.
Hi.
Do you work, is this kind of information that you gather on you know, carbon savings, etc., is that stuff that's sort of shared throughout councils, or is it, I mean, do you have like a common platform where you share information, or is it just done?
If only. No, we do have, so all local authorities, in fact, all public bodies are mandatorily required to report their carbon emissions each year, but that's for their own operations, that's their own carbon footprint. So we've got all the data for that, and that's what we publish that every year, so that's widely available. But what we're trying to find now is to gather data on our citywide emissions. Yeah. And that's much more complex. It's really difficult. You know, we had a transport workshop a few weeks ago, and we had urban foresight. We had all sorts of kind of the leading people in Dundee. And actually, we didn't have a clue about lots of very simple things. And then the Swedish company that we're working with, it's their software that we're trialing. They managed to find data from the Department for Transport that we had no clue of. So there's, you know, even the people that are working in the industries here are struggling to find data. So it's kind of a bit of a detective work going on at the moment. But what we hope to do then, and the software that we are trialing, quite a few local authorities are now starting to show an interest in. Mm-hmm. So I guess ultimately, when we're all kind of, you know, managed to find the data and got some good reliable data sources, then something like that, a kind of single platform, would be absolutely the pinnacle. That would be perfect. So I guess that's what we're working towards, but it's not there yet.
It's going to be really useful though when you have that, because from our side of things as a small business, you know, to be able to see how the council is making these kind of calculations, and even better if it was then replicated by other councils, so that everybody's singing off the same hymn sheet, as it were. You know, you're comparing apples and apples then, you know.
I mean, this was our main driver for going through procurement, to try and find something that could help us with the carbon savings of actions, because it's just not there. There's no methodology, and we've been asking the Scottish Government through our Sustainable Scotland network for ages, and it just wasn't going anywhere. And then there's lots of complicated consultants and everything else that we don't have the budget for that, and we want to understand the data ourselves. We don't want it to go externally to consultants to do things that we don't get. So we were just actually really lucky to come across this software that seems to do things in a nice, simple way and allows us to present the information. And I really do hope that eventually quite a few people will use this or find something similar, because there's a lot of new software companies coming up with things. But if we're all kind of using the same kind of data, that would be really helpful. But if it's waste data you want, then that is something. Is it? I guess it's related to waste data, Eric.
Well, no, I mean,
because the council obviously. So when we're talking about energy and stuff, we're talking about council buildings, but when we're talking about waste, we're talking about the whole of Dundee, because they obviously manage the business and the domestic waste and everything else, and the public waste as well. So if it's information about that should be pretty unified. It might not be very granular, but it is unified.
Yeah, just from our side, it'd be good to understand what that information is or data is, and where it comes from, and we're, as a company, sort of focused on carbon negative, sort of carbon capture, and not really looking at food waste and things. We're really primarily looking at the reuse of plastic containers as a business. That's what we're about, and what kind of carbon capturing can be achieved doing that. So I'd be keen to, in fact, if you don't mind, I might actually put someone in my diary for January and give you a call, and if we can even set up a Zoom or something. I know we can't meet up these days, which is a bit frustrating, but yeah, I'd just be keen to understand what it is you're doing, how the calculations are happening. What we're doing will be minuscule in comparison compared to the whole city of Dundee, but it'd be interesting to know what impact it's having as a small business. And I suppose if you've got hundreds of small businesses all making a small impact, then it adds up to something quite big, So yeah, it'd be fascinating to understand that a bit more. Anyway, sorry, I've kind of sidetracking there. But.
Naomi, you mentioned waste as well, didn't you? I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was pressing the wrong thing there. Sorry, yes, mentioned waste, sorry.
So on waste, what are you going to be looking for? Like, how can we help, basically?
I guess we're going to be trying to think of so the overall target obviously is to reduce waste, and there's different kind of parts of that. There's different projects. So we would like to have sort of Zero Waste Scotland, Circular Tayside, and our waste team, potentially someone at Baldovey as well, to sit down and look at, well, what are reasonable targets with what we got. We're going to have to start to quantify. What do you see Circular Tayside? How much waste reduction do you think there's going to be from Circular Tayside? We need to start to be able to quantify it. Now, it doesn't have to be an exact science. It can be an estimate. We can change it as we go along, but we need some kind of starting point. And the way it works is we kind of input that information. There's lots of mathematical modelling going on behind the scenes, but it will show us where we are. What overall for our net zero, how much does that carbon abatement have to come from waste? And with the projects that we've currently got, how far are we on that pathway for that waste reduction? So it's kind of getting us all, because we've done a lot of overlying work with the Climate Action Plan with lots of across the board, but now we're focusing in on each theme. So we've done our transport theme. Now it's to work with the waste theme and try to get as close to the truth as possible. But I appreciate it's really difficult because of all the things that we're discussing just now. But even it might start to bring lots of questions that we need to ask, identify where all the gaps are, what do we need to do, where, what further research is needed. I think it will help us to identify the questions as well. So that's, I'm hoping to get that workshop going late January, early February. And what I'll do is you'll get a full introduction of what the software is, and we'll kind of discuss it in more detail then. But hopefully it'll help to starting to push us in the right direction of understanding the data and what we need.
Okay, that sounds like a really good idea. So far, from Circular Tayside, we can only work with organizations within the limitations that the Zero Waste Scotland offering has. So at the moment, we are focusing on innovation, innovative technology, commercialization stage. Obviously, around that, we do our canvases, we do a lot of one-to-ones, we do a lot of promotion, introductions between people that they can kind of reduce or use each other's waste but we don't monitor that. All our real target is the innovation aspect of it. However, through that, we have had talks with local stakeholders that work in this waste reduction kind of scene, that we are happy to get involved in that way. Especially third sector. I have worked a lot with the third sector and how they try to, reduce and reuse and fix, and there is a lot of potential there, in my opinion. So
I think
whatever way we can.
I think even although you might not be able to quantify anything, that might not be the role that you've got, it's still really important that you're part of the discussion.
Oh, absolutely,
because
yeah.
You understand, that you need to contribute to the kind of bigger strategy, really. So it'd be really great to have you there.
Absolutely. Thank you, Naomi. Other comments?
Can I just go back one step? You know, I'm really interested in what Eric and Naomi were saying about the calculations. Is it who else on the call has had a grant from Zero Waste Scotland?
Sorry?
Who else has had a grant from Zero Waste Scotland? So Alison's got a okay, all right.
No
What
one.
it is, because part of the grant is that we've got to submit a report every quarter, okay? And it's to show what your carbon saving is. Now, when it comes to that calculation, when I think I was probably one of the very first to start this, was that I submitted calculations. Well, no, I asked for calculations. What could you help us with calculations, you know? And basically, we didn't have any. Okay, so I landed up having to work with them to create some calculations, etc. So talking about a third party, where somewhere we can go on and get that information, so that, because my concern at the moment is I submit my report every 3 months. Well, I don't actually, once a year when they ask for it, is, if I'm honest with you, when I submit it, it is Andy Simpson's take on it, okay? But what I have done is I've made sure it's consistent, so that if I get challenged at a later day and they say your calculations are rubbish, I can say, okay, but at least they're consistent. They don't have to be accurate, as long as they're consistent. And if we find out
Show the difference.
Yeah, if I'm 20% out, at least then we can make that 20% adjustment over my calculations, okay? But I've always felt uncomfortable. It shouldn't be Andy Simpson's calculations. It should be a standard calculation, a third party, independent, where I can go in and say, here's who's auditing my numbers, okay? I'm putting the data in, I'm getting this numbers back, then I'm submitting this to you for your report, and that gives me a bit of credibility as well. So I'm really, this how you calculate your carbon saving is a challenge as far as I'm concerned.
It really is. So the business support service helps with carbon calculations and life cycle analysis. However, not everyone gets the business support service. We have asked for help from Scottish Enterprise, from Alison. You all know Alison. So she does some carbon calculation, some of the businesses. When you apply for the CIF, they ask for the carbon savings, and they don't ask for a very thorough research that shows exactly how much carbon. It's just kind of a introductory figure that they're looking for. However, I agree with you, it shouldn't be Andy Simpson's calculations, because they might be very, very different from some Grace's calculations, for example. At the moment, we are training internally to deliver them, and we are going to, the training we do is from the greenhouse gas protocol. So hopefully that's going to be, something that is good enough for everyone. Until then, Scottish Enterprise, and I think that Business Gateway might be doing some things as well in that aspect for anyone that is interested, especially since the business support service is not working until April.
Don't get me wrong, the Andy Simpson calculations are working out well. I'm well above my target.
Maybe we can ask you to do the carbon calculations then.
Did you just say that Business Gateway do these calculations? Sorry.
I don't want to put my hand over fire. I think that's a very Greek expression. Apologies, but I know that Scottish Enterprise does for sure. So I would go there. I would go to Alison McPherson for them.
Okay.
So it might be that that's something that we do as an event next year. Is kind of explore. Just how you can do the calculations and where there are opportunities to go to get that, because that's something that came up in our conversation with Tevi, I think, is it?
Yeah. We can definitely do an introductory event where we describe what the challenges of robust carbon calculations are, how they usually take place, and where they can, businesses can go to for them. Especially for the needs of the CIF, because some other investors might need much, you know, more thorough carbon calculations, and some others much simpler. So yeah, we can.
It has to be simple because not every business can afford to buy software just to monitor and calculations.
Yeah.
It has to be readily available. And to be honest with you, it has to be readily available so to encourage people to make carbon savings.
Yeah.
You know, if they've got to go and buy some software to monitor it, and there you go. All of a sudden now you've lost interest in a lot of people because it's costing them money.
It has to be simple, but then doesn't it depend as well on the materials that you're looking for and on the processes that you're looking for, or the size of your business?
Well,
so if you're a 250 employee manufacturing firm that works with many different materials, then you've got a much more, you know, a bigger beast, really.
absolutely, and not all, like our business, it's not all about us saving direct carbon savings. It's actually what the service that we are providing provides a carbon saving. How do you calculate that?
You really can. No, you can give an average, I suppose, from last year's sales of products and how much they might have saved, but it's just, yeah, you really can't.
Well, I mean, basically, a
product.
typical example we would be doing is that because we can 3D print or manufacture the part here, where the alternative is that the whole piece of equipment gets scrapped because it's obsolete. Okay, we can do some calculations on that. Or is that because we can manufacture it here locally, that my customer doesn't have to ship that in from China?
Yeah.
You know, so there's the
transport.
The transport on that.
Absolutely. The same goes for Eric's products.
Yeah, I think
it's challenging for you as well.
Yeah, from our side, it would just be really useful to have not a certificate, but just a rubber stamp that says somebody else, a third party, agrees with the calculation. You know, and you could almost have it on a scale. You know, you could say, well, this has been validated, not to any kind of detail, but somebody who's got no axe to grind here agrees with this calculation. And then, you know, you could take that a step further to say, well, you know, you're going to invest a bit of money here and have all these calculations done fully and properly. But just, you know, just having that ability, like what Andy was saying, you know, he's had to make these calculations himself. I'm sure he's done a very good job, and he's done his very best to make sure they're as accurate as they could be. But just to have had somebody else to say, I've looked at your calculations, Andy, and that all makes sense to me. I don't think you're misleading anyone here. I think it's fine. Would be incredibly helpful, you know, because as a company, you know, we can make our claims, and we will do the same as Andy's done and be as honest as we can about it. But at the end of the day, we've got a commercial interest here. So having a third party just say, yep, looked at your calculations, all makes sense. While we're not saying we've been into any kind of granular detail here on it, we definitely don't think you're misleading anyone. So we'll give it a rubber stamp.
Yeah.
Can I, sorry, I've just been informed to the side of me that basically we're working on that, creating a system as a third party so that we can basically go into a company, take those calculations, and then basically give you that third party, that second opinion accreditation saying, this is what the results are, you're right here, you're wrong here, this is what it is. I wasn't too aware of that, to be totally honest, but hopefully it's something that we'll be offering next year. So
that's good.
I'll be sure to find out a little bit more about that, and then feed it back to the rest of the ambassadors and let you know where we are with that. We are, Sam and I have been looking at similar things, more kind of energy data focused, but we're kind of diversifying, so it makes sense that that's something else that we've been looking at. I'm just not one of the ones looking at it, but yeah, that's I'll find out a little bit more, maybe pull together an info piece and send it around the ambassadors so you guys can have a look for who's interested.
So Christian, if you ever need a guinea pig.
Right, yeah.
I was just going to say that, a whole bunch of beta testers.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, no, that sounds good. Brilliant.
Great.
We would be interested in that, Christian. So maybe get in touch in the new year, or we could link up in the new year. Would be good.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. I think it's our colleague Roddy who's looking at it, so we'll speak to him, and then even if maybe he comes along as well, we can have a chat about it and see what's what in the new year.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Right.
Lovely. You guys in the group just keep growing and growing and growing in this whole sustainability thing. That's amazing. Well done.
Yeah, we've had, although it's been a weird year, we've had quite a good one for growth. So there's a lot of projects on at the minute, which we'll hopefully see fruition and start to kind of go live in the next year, which from what we've got planned, a lot of them will hopefully link in and be able to help the other ambassadors move towards, net zero and circularity.
That's great.
I would like to add, hi Vasa. First of all, thank you very much for all great efforts, have been done during this year. It was an unusual year, but I see like the number of workshops, the events, the maps, ambassadors, like everything, it's really impressive. And more than 400 businesses like being involved in Circular Tayside, which is really impressive. And you have been in direct contact with more than 200 businesses.
Yeah, so
that's really impressive, despite the COVID. So hopefully, like 2021 would be, like better. The vaccine will be effective.
Absolutely.
Even for us, like for Angus Council, we used to have like physical events very often. Now everything, like online. So we are not like, in the same position when we talk to businesses. So
it's good for your carbon footprint, Rami.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah, we have to think about it. By the way, one of our businesses, Montrose Port Authority, has done the carbon footprint calculations for the scope 1, scope 2, and they have like plans to be the first carbon neutral port in Scotland. So I'm happy to put you, for the port. So I'm happy to put you in touch with those people like working in that project.
That would be fantastic. We would love to get the word out on what they're doing.
Yeah, they have like plans. They are progressing as well to be like the first carbon neutral port, which is really fantastic.
That is
and also, we work with number of industry groups across all our main key sectors: food and drink, tourism, golf, manufacturing, engineering. So I'm happy to share with you, like those database of like those main industry group we're working with. So if there is any collaboration, between you and them for 2021, any joint events, any stuff, so that would be fantastic as well.
Yes,
so
we're always happy to do that. Always to work with those sectors. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just
so yeah,
me.
Thank you very much, Vasa, for everything. It was really fantastic.
Thank you.
We
I keep
always,
asking you with email, Rami, do you know them?
Yeah.
Do you know him? Can you bring us in contact? Thank you so much for all your
yeah, thank you.
It's been brilliant. Okay, so far we've got carbon calculations, external party validation, but also an event with them. Do an event that work with academia a bit more, and focus on the waste side of CCAP for next year. What else do you think that is going to be useful for us, for businesses, for us to work on? The canvas has been quite good so far, but the canvas only goes so far in identifying the waste and generating some ideas of what to do alternatively with it. Do you see anything coming out of these canvas sessions? Like, we identify the waste that exists, but maybe we could have a side project on making that waste more kind of, I don't know if we should have a waste hub or a waste map, or maybe a way to make that waste accessible by others. What do you think we could do in that regard? Hi, Jennifer.
Just thinking maybe there could be like a focused session where, say, a few people realize that they have a similar issue around waste. They're looking for maybe reuse of plastic, and we could do like a group session where we invite others, like an open space, maybe people that are not necessarily ambassadors, but to other businesses, just to do a bit of peer connection.
That's a great idea, so that people can just brainstorm what they're doing with their plastic and what, well, with their packaging, what packaging is, what alternatives they have.
Yeah, it was this phrase, one man's waste is another man's treasure, I know.
Very true. Out of Canvas sessions. Okay, that is great. Any other input on what we've been doing so far? So this project, well, I assume that this is a question for you, Alison. Where do you see the project going? So the Zero Waste Scotland kind of project was for initially 2 years, but in those 2 years, we have built a kind of capacity for circularity in the region. How do you think we should go on the rest of this year, well, next year, in order to establish Circular Tayside more as a project, regardless of Zero Waste Scotland?
I don't know. I mean, I think for me, there's definitely something in the strength of the ambassadors and kind of really showcasing what Circular Tayside, you know, what the purpose is, which is about helping businesses be more circular or kind of helping them access the tools they need. I think the charter's been a big bit of work already, but you know, it's only as good as the number of people that hold it. So I think we do need to get that out and really kind of fully sort of test how easy it is for you guys to work through it. So I think that's going to be a really big part of, I think, next year's work. Then there's also then the wider things. You know, we've got the Taste Cities deal is over the line, and there's quite a large innovation net zero theme within that we could do with knowing a bit more about. There's COP 20, whatever it's called, coming. So, you know, I think there's a few, well, and the other thing I kind of shared, I think this morning, I don't know how many of the ambassadors will have seen it, but Skills Development Scotland just published a Climate Emergency Skills Action Plan. So, you know, trying to understand what that means for business, what Skills Development Scotland are trying to do with that plan, and how that's going to help upskill everybody's business that kind of sits around our table. And I think there's a few things to think about. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on any of those.
For the upskilling of businesses, I think that as well, especially after seeing Sam's and Christian's AAA plan, it's not only green businesses now anymore. It's every business will have to have these skills for their carbon, for assessing the life cycle of their product, for being greener. I don't know what role the DYW would have to play in that, and if we could work a bit more with them for this. But yeah. What do you, I just wanted to ask Nicola, because she's working in a kind of consultancy firm, how do you think we could go forward with this upskilling, green upskilling in businesses?
Hi, yeah, I think that it's just really raising people's awareness of what they can do. I think that a lot of people will hide away from it because they don't understand it. So just making it really accessible at every point and taking away that scariness of it for them. I think having case that are video based rather than text based really help in order for people just to, you know, have a short clip. And I think it really helps them when there's subtitles. That's what the feedback we've been getting is when these videos have subtitles, they're able to, you know, watch and read along rather than have to play it with sound. They've been helpful in some other instances, but it's just the ease of having events in person as well, having a big showcase event where, you know, business owners could talk to other people about how easy it was for people to make those changes. There was one I had seen from Zero Waste Scotland about a delicatessen in Edinburgh that had a new refrigerator system, and they said how easy it was to do, which they broke it down and just made it, you know, ease of access for people to understand in a real level for business sense what that meant for them and how easy it was so somebody else could do it themselves. I think just that transferableness and how people can play their part is really important.
Okay, I see what you mean. At the moment, we've got many different services that can help businesses reduce either waste or energy. So There is the Energy Efficiency Business Support Service. There we go. I said it, from Zero Waste Scotland. They do energy audits and they help reduce the energy bills. And they even offer some interest-free loans in order to upgrade your energy systems. For circularity, you have Zero Waste Scotland. For carbon savings that are not energy related, again, I would probably go to Zero Waste Scotland, although to my knowledge, there is no particular tool that says, you know, you have reduced your plastic packaging by such amount, you've got so much CO2 saved. Do you think, Nicola, that having a process with steps would be useful for businesses? Like step 1, get your energy sorted. Step 2, get your staff sorted. Step 3, get your product sorted.
I think it would help, but I think maybe just making it accessible at any point, because I think there's maybe different people responsible for different things and they may pick up at different rates. So it might just produce another barrier if they feel that they have to do them in sequential order. Maybe just like little packages of, you know, like they can access anyone at any point. But yeah, just guide how to support would be really helpful.
Okay, that's really good. So make packages. Let me just write it down. That was, well, the charter that we have, although it is focused on circularity, the idea behind it was that it would, the levels of awards would be incremental. So we would have a very simple for bronze, very simple requirement for bronze, and then a bit more complex for silver, and then even more complex for gold. Things like the Green Champions training from the Energy Efficiency Business Support Service. We have involved circular procurement in there, but after we pilot this this charter, and if we see that there's more stakeholders we need to get involved, we'll be happy to do that and just have it as a more holistic tool. So far, so the idea with the charter is that we're going to pilot it with a couple of businesses in starting from January. But if any of you would like to help us pilot it, we'd be more than happy to try it. The more variety we have, the better, really. So just let me know. Okay. Other comments?
So Naomi was just saying in the chat, is there a waste exchange platform in the local area? And there's not, but it was being looked at. So you spoke to, is it Darren or Daryl? Terrible.
So
but I keep forgetting
the idea was, so Zero Waste Scotland has a waste platform on construction material, but to my knowledge, that never kind of took off. It was a bit, you know. Then you have CanArts, where people from, where companies from the construction sector can send their waste to be used by artists. And the only talk that I have had for a circular kind of brokering company was with Daryl Gaffney Deploy from Opportunity. I don't know if you know him. He was looking into creating this online membership scheme kind of platform where people could, companies could just upload what amounts of what waste they have and what grade that waste is, in the hopes that someone is going to bid for it or buy it. However, at the moment, it is just a thought. I think he did apply for funding, but he wasn't successful at the moment for that funding. It is definitely something that we thought about, Alison. Do you remember? We were thinking about a waste hub. Then we decided that because it would require a lot of data and a lot of work on it, we couldn't deliver it through this project. It would have to be a project on its own. But we're definitely interested in seeing how we can get this off the ground with someone else, maybe. If you want an introduction with Daryl so that you see how far he went, let me know. And I'm sure he's going to be happy to share. Okay. Right. I think that's been it for me for today. It was basically to get an idea from you guys how we've been doing and what ideas we have for next year. Pretty short session. It's good to keep it like that before Christmas. And yeah, unless there's any other comments, I'm happy to just close it. Okay. Yes, Vincent.
Right. I was just about to say that if anybody wants a partner from the university to do either KTPs or even look at the data system like what you're talking about. We always have fantastic students who can gain a lot in confidence, in corporate learning. If you want to do that, just feel free to come and approach me. I'm happy to connect you to other departments as well. And yeah, let's see if we can get more of you coming to us for some of this, and our students will work with you very happily to see if you can get some of these solutions. So whenever that comes to your mind, please just come in touch. And we have some very eager students who would like to help.
Vincent, is it, do you always require funding for that kind of thing? Because when we've approached the universities before, we've always been asked for some kind of funding, which, you know, as a small team, we just don't have. But we'd love to kind of utilize the expertise of students for this kind of work.
Now, there's two ways to do it. There's the business side, but we can go around that because it's just fantastic, some of the ideas you have. And together we can actually access funds. There's some funds I see, but I'm not a business, so I don't bother applying for. But with one of you, we can turn it around and come with you leading it and us supporting and create a very powerful, compelling small group. So whatever comes, let's just explore, and you never know. And I think we might succeed in some of these things, and that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I'd be really interested in being part of that.
Honestly, yeah, if something comes up, let's just get together and really give it a shot. I think we can do very well with some of these. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Vincent. Okay, right, guys. Then I will wish you Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. If I don't see you until then, I'm gonna go ahead and edit this and then just take the, you know, the usual. I'm gonna write the summary, put it on the ambassador's website, etc., etc. And our next meeting is going to be at some point in March. Yeah, March. Cool. Lovely. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well done, Vaso. Nice to see everybody. Have a fab time.
Thank you. Have a good Christmas.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.